Hi, I'm Andrew from Ranella East College. I'm the languages coordinator here, and I've made this video as an introduction to the workshop that we're having on flipped classroom approach in languages. Just as a bit of an introduction, and I guess to model the flipped classroom approach in the workshop that we're going to have. So the workshop will focus on languages, but it is applicable to other learning areas. A lot of the ideas are. Most of the examples I'll use are probably more relevant to languages though. Like I said, I'm trying to model the flipped classroom approach in this workshop. I will make a disclaimer, I'm not an expert with this approach. What I'm doing really is bringing together some of the research and the learning that I've done in this area, and the knowledge of how to use some of the tools to do this, and hopefully you'll be able to take on board some of it and use it with your own class. During the workshop we are going to go through a bit of a definition of what a flipped classroom is and what it looks like, as well as a rationale of why you would use it. We'll look at some ways it can be used in a languages classroom, and again, like I said before, a lot of the ideas will be applicable to PE and the arts as well, and specifically there'll be time for learning about and practicing some of the tools that can be used to create a flipped classroom approach. So what exactly is a flipped classroom? It's certainly probably some jargon that you've heard of before. It's a bit of a buzzword, and it has been for quite a few years. There's quite a bit of I suppose misunderstanding about what it is and how it can be used. The main focus of a flipped classroom is that it is student-centered. So yes, the notion of homework time and lesson time is flipped, but the main idea behind it is that it's student-centered, so it allows students to learn at their own pace. It allows students to ideally choose ways of learning that work best for them. So in practice, the most obvious thing is that that homework and classwork is flipped. So you can see in the diagram on the slide here that the learning of key concepts and key ideas for whatever the lesson is takes place before the lesson, so that homework time is used for it. And then during the class, students, they can apply that learning or that knowledge in activities that are guided by the teacher that demonstrate some higher order thinking skills that I'll talk about in a minute. After class then, homework time is used to extend student learning. For students who are working at a fast pace, they're able to move on with new topics and new ideas, and do other activities. So why would you use a flipped classroom approach in your lessons? Well, the main reason, as I said before, is the differentiation. So it differentiates for students who learn at different paces, which is particularly relevant to a languages class. We have a lot of students in there who have a wide variety of experience and knowledge of the language, and often we'll have two different programs running in the same class. It allows for activities within a class for students to demonstrate the higher order thinking skills, as you can see from the diagram on the screen there. And instead of students attempting to do those at home for homework, they're done in the class with the support of the teacher, the supervision of the teacher, who can really guide that higher order thinking, rather than simply as in the traditional model, disseminating that knowledge. There are a lot of tools that can be used that we'll go through in the workshop that can allow for tracking of student completion of that homework. As I'll talk about in a minute, one of the main I guess not criticisms but skepticisms of this idea is the students who don't do their homework, and we know there are plenty of those. There are lots of tools available to track students who are and aren't doing the tasks before the lesson, and also to what extent they understand the learning that's been done before the lesson. And another reason to use the flipped classroom approach, it allows a lot of scope for collaboration among students. Either before the lesson, there are lots of online tools that allow students to collaborate, or collaborate in activities that use the knowledge that they've learned before the lesson. With regard to languages, as in most learning areas, there are many applications of the flipped classroom approach. It's important to remember that not every lesson needs to be flipped. It could be just at the start of a unit, the key vocabulary or grammar that's needed for that unit of work in languages, or the teaching about the text type they're going to produce. It might just be at the start of a week, or depending on what the program is. I guess importantly, as mentioned before, the flipped approach can be used to differentiate the curriculum for students who find languages difficult, or at the other end to extend capable students. So if there's a teaching point on, say, the verb to be or to have in French, if that's accessible to students as a video, they can go back and look over that as many times as they need to be able to learn it. I guess on a more practical note as well, as I mentioned, if you've got, for example, a year 9 and 10 class, year 9 10s in the same class, or if you've got SACE beginners and SACE continuers, or in year 8 you'll often have students who have been doing the Australian curriculum F to 10 stream, as well as the year 7 entry stream. There's a lot of scope to be able to cater for those different program students are doing. Some ideas for using it in languages include listening exercises, which can be videos of a native speaker. There are hundreds of resources on YouTube, for example, for this. Vocabulary learning, that repetition that's needed for vocabulary learning through tools such as Quizlet. Authentic resources, websites of TV channels or magazines, and also collaboration, as talked about before, and it might be for interacting with native speakers in the country of the language. Some of the challenges around a flipped classroom, it's not the goal, the perfect fix for teaching. There are plenty of problems with it. One of the main ones is for us as teachers. It requires a different approach, and there are quite a few habits that need to be changed, and certainly me personally in my classes, I need to change some of my habits as well, and there's new skills to be learned as well, things like creating videos over PowerPoints, making Google Forms. All of those sorts of things take time and confidence to do, which time in particular is things as teachers we don't have a lot, something we don't have a lot of. But hopefully, after looking at some of the tools today, or in our session on Friday, if you're watching this beforehand, which hopefully you are, you'll see that a lot of these apps and websites and things, once you've had a go and developed some confidence, they are very straightforward to use. Another challenge which I tend to not accept from students, which might sound a bit harsh, is their access to the technology. I do understand there are some students who don't have internet or computer access at home, but our response to that at Ranella East is we have study rooms available after school. There's the library and senior studies, so I don't see that as a blocker for the flipped classroom approach for students. But a main challenge is that it really puts the responsibility onto students for learning these key concepts and ideas before classes, which, as we know, with students and homework nowadays, and it's nothing new, getting students to do homework can be really challenging, and when you're placing more importance on the homework for the lesson that you're going to deliver, it does increase that responsibility on students, but as we'll go through with things like Google Forms and the ability to track student responses to that, there's lots of tools that can be used to ensure students are doing the preparation in the flipped classroom approach. So just quickly, I wanted to keep this under 10 minutes and it's just gone over. What we're going to do in Friday's workshop, we're going to be going over some of the tools that can be used for implementing this flipped classroom approach, including Office Mix, which I've used to make this video. Importantly, you'll have time to practice and play around with some of the tools. You'll be able to go at your own pace to do things like produce a Google form, produce a video from a PowerPoint, play around with some websites such as Quizlet, which hopefully you'll be able to do after watching this video and using this as an introduction. And there'll be time for questions, and I'll help you out to the best of my ability, and there'll be plenty of other people there who have some experience working with this, so it'll be a good chance to share some of the ideas if you've used this approach in your class, share some of your perspectives on it, and across learning areas as well, because we'll have people from the arts and languages as well as PE too. So thanks for watching this video. There's a few questions on the Google form that you're watching this video in that I'd like you to complete beforehand, so I've got an idea of what to prepare for the workshop, and all of the materials will be on the website that's on the Google form as well. So thanks for watching.